morning, good morning, good morning. Good to see all of you. This is Black Thought. I'm your host, Dr. Hutchinson. Guess what? This show has been on the air 1 year today. So happy anniversary to us. And we're grateful that you've been watching us. Many of you have been watching us for the entire year. Some of you have come on board a little later, but it doesn't matter. Thank you for your support. And that's right, you can email me at blackthought.mutv1@yahoo.com if you want to get in touch with me that way. Also, we have a Facebook page, MUTV1 Black Thought, MUTV1 Black Thought, where you can see some of the content that we have here as a part of the show. Now, many of you already know what type of show we have lined up for today. If you don't know and you're watching, you may want to call your cousins, you may want to call your friends, you may want to tap your coworkers on the shoulder, whoever you need to contact, because no, this is not going to be one of those light and polite shows. We're going to be talking about some serious business. And so, again, we have a Facebook page, MUTV1 Black Thought. You can access and look at some of the links that we have to the show right now. And then also we have a connection on that YouTube page, that Facebook page to our YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you will see various things and various excerpts of shows that we have had in the past, and we want you to watch intently. And matter of fact, at the conversation off air, there's some content that we're going to upload within the next couple of days that you really must see. And so, as I have my conversation, yes, there it is, MUTV1 Black Thought, and you see up close and personal some of the things that we have linked on there, and you also see the links to the YouTube channel. And let me sidetrack for a minute. If you remember, one of the contributors to our show lives in New Jersey. We have Dialog with him. I have shared some op-ed pieces with him, and his name is Mr. Walter Fields. And a racial incident, and you're seeing a part of it there, happened to his daughter at the Maplewood Pizzeria. And I'm proud to say that as a result of showing this, of this interview and showing this, that several of you have done some of the things that were asked. If you go to our YouTube channel and watch this, you'll see at the end, we asked you to do about 4 things. We asked you to contact the local papers in New Jersey. I think it was the Newark Star Ledger and some others. Gave you some email addresses. We asked you to call the pizzeria. We gave you the phone number. We asked you to do several other things. Well, I'm proud to report that several of you have called the pizzeria. Matter of fact, talked to somebody who called the pizzeria Saturday night, and they told me that the people were flustered, and it was to the point where one of the workers threw the owner under the bus and said it was his fault. We didn't have anything to do with that. So your pressure is working. So keep calling, keep letting them know that this type of racism is unacceptable. And of course, you heard it here, front and center on Black Thought. And don't have no fear. When we have some local issues come up like that, guess what? Same thing's going to happen, because we have to speak truth to power and tell our story. And so, before we get into our show, and right before we take this quick break, let me thank MUTV1 for giving me this platform. Want to thank Dr. Ivory Taylor. Want to thank Buck Buchanan Esquire. Want to thank Eddie Jones. Want to thank all of them for this platform. 1 year ago, was not on the air, was not doing this, have not been to journalism school. I don't have a background in this. All I have is a voice. And this opportunity opened up. And I'm grateful to God that I've been able to share with you for a year and to speak truth to power. We've had some amazing guests on this show, and I'm just letting you know we have some amazing guests that are going to be on the show today. So you're going to want to pay close attention. Also, Got so excited about being here 1 year, forgot to do this piece of housekeeping. I'm also the pastor at First Baptist Church Lauderdale in that great hamlet of South Memphis, right across the street from the Booker T. Washington High School. And so if you want to contact me there, the number is 523-0501. But of course, if you call me there, I'm not there now. I'm looking at you in HD video. So keep it locked right here. And also, you see a number where you can dial me direct, 249-9995. Feel free to call me. And of course, as always, I appreciate your support, and I'm glad for your support. And so let me say this right as we get ready to go to break. We're going to be talking about local issues. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to talk about global issues and show how we as a people are connected across the diaspora. Some of the issues that we have in Memphis mirror some of the issues that are in Newark, and we've talked about that, mirror some of the issues that you see in South Africa, that you see in London, that you see in Paris, that you see in New York. So we're going to talk about those. We're also going to talk about the Bible as it relates to us as African Americans. We've done so. And during this month, we will show you vignettes of past shows so you can see some of the things that we've done. All right? Want to let you know, we have State Representative G.A. Hardaway with us. Look forward to his conversation. We have the chairman of the Shelby Democratic Party here. Look forward to his conversation. We have political strategist D. Harris here. Look forward to his conversation. And we have a surprise guest. Not going to tell you who it is, but you're going to want to see who it is. So keep it locked right here. We're getting ready to go to break. This is Black Thought, and I'm your host, Dr. Hutchinson. We're back. This is Black Thought. I'm your host, Dr. Hutchinson, and I'm so excited about this segment. I'm stuttering. I'm so excited about this segment because we have some powerhouses here. First of all, let me start to my far left. We have a great political strategist here, Mr. D. Harris. Good to have him. And then working from him, we have the president, chairman of the Shelby County Democratic Party, Mr. Bryan Carson. Glad to have him. And then what is interesting about today, this is the 1 year anniversary of this show. My first guest was State Representative G.A. Hardaway. My guest for today amongst these brethren is State Representative G.A. Hardaway. So it's good to have him with us today as well. All right, gentlemen, let's get into it. We are here caucused in this way over a specific issue, and then we'll broaden our conversation. Our issue is, I saw a rumor, I think I saw it on social media, and I think Representative Hardaway was talking to Brother Carson. I can't remember who it was. And it was about closing polling places. And when I saw that, I almost had a heart attack because it just bothered me to my core. And so as soon as I saw that, I beckoned for the three of you to be here and to have this conversation. Invited Norma Lester too, but because of the time commitments and other things, she couldn't be here, but she's willing to come on at a later date and discuss this further. But I wanted to talk to you all. Tell us what the issue is with the closure of these polling places. Whichever one of you wants to jump into deep water, go right ahead.
Well, I'm the deep water guy. Well, a lot of this started with a proposal about something called convenience voting. And let me just quickly explain. Convenience voting is a way to reduce the number of precincts down to a very small number. To kind of put this in perspective, they wanted to have somewhere about 23, I believe, or 25 convenience voting centers that would replace all of the precincts countywide for election day voting. We would have gone from roughly 235 precincts down to about 25 precincts. The plus, at least as they put it, is that you'd be able to vote at any one of these sites irrespective of what precinct that you're in. The downside of that is that we were able to show that it was mathematically impossible to be able to allow every voter to vote with 23 sites going from 225. They needed an act of the state legislature to be able to make that happen. They actually passed this law in 2011, but some of the rural counties, Republican folks, balked at it because they were going to have the same problem. So they needed our elected officials here, particularly our election commission, the appointed election commission, to basically pass some kind of rule that would say we could have them, and Memphis would be a pilot program. But ironically, it was Memphis or Shelby County, Nashville, Chattanooga, and I believe Knoxville, all of the large sites, large cities, urban cities, democratic-leaning cities, were chosen for the pilot process. So we balked. We were able to show in stark mathematical terms how this wouldn't work. So that kind of went away. They saw that was going to be a fire sum. Now, they had the numbers in the legislature, just steamrollers, actually. But the issue they have is this thing cuts both ways, because in the rural areas, there's some places where they don't have enough folks to even make up a precinct. For instance, and I'm going to be brief, the proposal was to have one early voting site for roughly 10,000, or one convenience voting center for roughly 10,000 people. So there'd be sites or cities, little small towns, where there wasn't even 10,000 people in them. Somebody had to drive to the next county to be able to vote. So that's one thing that sort of saved us here, because they could steamroll. So this new proposal is just a local proposal to close some quote-unquote underperforming sites and consolidate them. Well, they've done this before. They did this back in 2010 and created a whole lot of confusion. The next thing they said was they didn't have any legal requirement to notify voters. Well, actually they do when they change a precinct. Not when they redistrict, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so they did this in 2010. They closed about, I think, 30 or so, 38 precincts, which affected about 100,000 or so African American voters.
I was one of them.
And so then they came back and said, well, we didn't turn out. On one hand, they said we lost that election because we didn't turn out. Then the people that did turn out, they told them they'd already voted and they were voting. So what these measures are, and I'm going to be quiet after this, are just suppression, voter suppression by another name. It's thinly veiled ways to either confuse voters, close precincts, restrict the number of hours, restrict the number of locations. Because if you can do this mathematically, and I gave a presentation, there's so many hours per day, so many machines. And when you multiply the number of machines by the number of hours there are to vote, you can mathematically show what the capacity is or the number of people that can vote. Right now, we don't have it.
Well, let me jump in, then I'll let one of you gentlemen speak to this as well. Let me just use me as an example. I was voting in the Orleans School on McMillan. They changed the areas, and now I'm voting at Christ Missionary. Now, they're far enough apart that if you live in that neighborhood and you don't have transportation, you may decide, I'm not voting. There's nothing compelling me to vote. And that's a problem, because evidently you already had low enough turnout to make you change the districts, change the precincts and close some of them. And now you do it in such a way that it affects people to make the, like you said, voter suppression. So those are some of the things that we have to look at. And I'm almost certain, without even researching it, that a lot of these districts that they're looking at are in African American communities. I'm almost certain.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, you're correct. You're correct. When you say voter suppression, when you say violation of voting rights, then these are just one more attempt. They're just legal tools that they're going to use in order to keep the traditional democratic vote out of the voting process. We're talking about seniors. We're talking about those with low income. Those with low income usually have issues with transportation. Seniors usually have issues with transportation. Those college students usually have issues with transportation. Issues with transportation and issues with information. Now, these people are most affected when you're talking about making any changes in the voting laws, much less in the actual process. So when you change the voting precincts, we're the ones, we being poor folks, the elderly, those college students, and it just happens that most of these groups are disproportionately represented ethnically by black folk and other people of color. So it comes down to where you have to ask the election commission, what is your job? Is your job to be politically swayed towards one side or the other, or is your job to facilitate the voting process, to make sure that you're upholding the integrity of the process, that you're maximizing the participation of the voters? That's how you ought to look at your service as an election commissioner, as an election administrator, and say you're doing your job. Do you have more people voting? Is it convenient for them? Do they have full information on the process? What can you do to facilitate that process? Not being another arm or appendage of a political party. And the Republican Party has messed up election after election ever since they've been in charge. This is documented. It's not anecdotal statement, it's documented. So the question comes back to, what is your job? Quit trying to make it political and get on with the business of maintaining the integrity of the system and facilitating the voting process. And until we do that, we're going to keep having this mess after mess for elections. I think we need to be careful when we as people of color start celebrating anniversaries of accomplishments in civil rights and human rights over the past years. We've had 50th anniversary celebrations a number of times over the past few years. But the one thing about freedom is not a static, permanent position. It's something that's fluid. It's always changing. And I would dare say that there's a limited amount of freedom. I can only be as free, my mom used to tell me, as the end of your nose begins. That's where my freedom ends, where your nose begins. So, and I tell some of the students and some of my voters now that if you want to maximize your freedom, then you need to look at your level of economic attainment and your level of educational achievement. How much freedom you have is directly related to economics and education. And you can't have the equal opportunities to pursue these areas unless you go to the polls and vote. You don't go to the polls and vote, somebody else is making decisions for your household. Some other person is telling you how much you're going to pay in taxes. They're going to tell you where your children are going to school. They're going to tell you what they're going to learn when they get there. Someone's making a decision on whether those of you who are involved in the entitlement programs, whether you're going to have something to eat the next day or not. We're making decisions on whether you're going to wear uniforms to school or whether you're going to wear your own clothes to school. We're making decisions on how safe you're going to be in your neighborhood. What type of prosecution is going to occur? One of the things that we don't pay attention to, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to having a lawyer up there in this upcoming session, that's a Democrat out of Shelby County, is that we don't pay attention to the process, the legal process, in particular prosecutorial discretion. It doesn't begin until the DA says, we're going to pursue this. The law enforcement officers can make all the arrests in the world, but between that arrest and court is the prosecutor. The prosecutor determines what cases are going to proceed, what cases are going to be settled, what cases are just not going to be prosecuted at all. We've got to pay attention to that. We've got to pay attention to that because it determines what type of freedom we're going to have in our own communities from the standpoint of public safety. And I dare say that there's been some questionable decisions made that we need to be conscious of. And that's just one of the things that comes with voting or not voting, is being able to determine your public safety issues because of who your DA is, who your sheriff is, who is a constitutional officer, who your trustee is, the county's maker, how property taxes are going to be collected, whether or not there's going to be the flexibility on how you pay your taxes, whether you've got an aggressive trustee who's going to pursue legislative efforts in order to take some of that burden off of poor folks and spread it around. But there are a lot of things that you need to be conscious of when you're talking about, I'm too tired to go vote, I don't feel like voting. Somebody else is running your life. When you sit down and don't vote, someone else is running your life.
Well, let's say it this way. If you have a house full of food and you don't cook, you won't eat.
And
that's
Part of freedom.
It will spoil.
That's right.
It will spoil.
When you're free, you have responsibilities to keep things moving on.
Yes, sir.
So if you have a house full of food and you won't cook, then you deserve to be hungry.
Deserve to be hungry. Freedom ain't free, and it ain't easy.
That's right. I just had a black thought. Put your mind in gear and put your thinking cap on.